Okay, so we got the stator and the ignition points assembly, everything all pulled out. Um, just cleaning it up. I'm gonna pull the cover off of it here and then go into the points and clean the points contact. Make sure it's gapped properly. I believe these are 15 thousandths of an inch that you gap the breaker points to when your piston is at top dead center. There's all the hardware to it. The easiest way to get at these and to get all this stuff off, and to give me an opportunity to clean all this off as well, is to just pull this, just remove that bracket. And then the cylinder shroud here, it comes off really easily. And then you can disconnect the spark plug wire. And you can pull out the little connections here. And then it just basically, there's a little passage that it goes through right there. And you can just basically pull the whole thing out, and then you can, have a good look at it. This is where the oil seal is. Was looking at the parts diagram. It is the exact same oil seal set that's on a typical C-Series saw. It's, oh my God, what is it, 5.625? I can't remember what it is on the other side. I'm not going to even attempt it though, because of all this gear housing. Not going there. However, the flywheel side is accessible. And this seal here is common, but however, it's discontinued. It's 58308. I do happen to have a replacement seal. It's in new old stock. And it replaces this. But the problem with these guys is, remember I was talking, well, maybe you haven't remembered, but some seals, they dry flush with the case. These ones are countersunk to allow for that piece there to sit down in. So you got to really pay attention to that when you're taking a seal out that's countersunk and take a measurement of it. So I remember doing this actually. What did I do? Is it fractions of an inch? I think I did fractions of an inch to measure it last time. I remember doing this when I rebuilt a C51 one time. And I believe it was, what is it? Yeah, so you just basically, measure the depth from the case down in, and you get 9/64ths of an inch. There's a couple different ways you can do this. You can try and get washers that are the same size as that. What I did, I believe a couple of years ago, was I took a 17 millimeter socket and I ground it down on a taper exactly 9/64ths. So when I drive it, it will bottom out. The diameter of this is bigger than the case, so it'll bottom out. It won't go too deep. So that's what I did to solve this little problem. Otherwise, you're guessing, and it's really hard to drive a seal straight when you're countersinking it. You can try and use sockets and stuff, but yeah, it's tricky. Anyway, that's what we're gonna do with this. I'm gonna change this seal out. We're gonna clean up the points. Clean up this gasket a little bit. I contemplated changing out the coil wire. That's something I typically do on these old saws. I really hate doing the wires on this style. See how it's epoxied in? They are a son of a gun to get out. And typically the coil wire breaks and you gotta pick it out, and you can actually, if you're not careful, you can break off this casing here. And then it's really difficult to try and get it back in. You basically spend about an hour picking away at this to get all the little bits out so that you can expose the little pin that wire sits on. So, This wire looks pretty good. You never know. The insulation could be compromised on it. It could start grounding out. If that's the case, it's going to suck. And I'll, you know, end up having to rip this all apart again and replacing it. I was given a tip on here, one of the last videos I had. Guy was talking about when you mount the stator plate back on, there is actually some movement here. There's some play that you would have. It's very minimal, but it's probably a degree or two. And I learned the hard way on this saw about stator plate positioning. That one there doesn't have like screws the line in. You have to actually position it at a certain angle in relation to the position of the piston. Well, I mean, that's how you do it if you don't have a timing mechanism. On this one, it actually bolts up. So, you know, it gives you, you know, it already kind of solves a lot of the problem for you. But to sum up what the guy was saying there on the last comment, you have to turn the stator plate, once the screws are in, you know, all the way clockwise, so that your points are lining up and opening at the right time, or I guess I'm doing it this way, are opening at the right time, and giving you proper ignition timing. I'm not gonna lie, I don't fully understand ignition timing, but I get the basics, and I do know that it's extremely important to make sure that you have the coil lined up at the right spot. If you're going to be using breaker points, probably even if you weren't, you could chip this thing and it would make, you know, it would eliminate all that stuff, but we're not going to chip it. This thing works hopefully fine, and we're going to use breaker points. Also, give me a good chance here to blow all this crap out. It's much cleaner now than it was. So, next up, oil seal, take it out, put a new one in. So, oh, drop the seal, that's fantastic. Here we go, pick it up. So I got this, the seal pulled out. I made myself a new seal puller. A little bit smaller screwdriver, ground it down, and then took the sharp edges off it there. It worked pretty good. So, where did I put my, I want to be able to measure that. When I drive it in, make sure I go the right depth. Again, a little bit of grease in around the lip here, just to help hold the garter spring in. I don't suspect there's much reason that it would get knocked out here, but we'll put it on anyway. And just all around it here. So basically a little bit in here. Just to help things slide. And then just by hand over the shaft here, and start working it down here by hand a little bit. Now, it went in a little bit crooked. I don't like starting out crooked. So I'm just going to pop it back up out here. There we go. Maybe just even, so I got a washer that's the inside diameter is about the same size as the crankshaft. Just kind of use that to line it up, in theory, although it didn't go straight again. There, just like that. I'm going to use this to basically drive the seal down flush with the case. Seal driver that I made. There we are. We're flush with the case. But that's no good. We want it to actually be countersunk in. If I remember correctly, it was 9/64. So I got this socket, 17 millimeter socket that I measured 9/64 down and basically coned it to there. So we're going to try and drive it the rest of the way in with this, which I don't really like using because see how the backside's open like this. Maybe if I put a washer on the top. I think we're good there. Gonna measure it. And a little deeper than I wanted to go. It's an 1/8. Or is that not deeper? I don't know my fractions very well. It's not deep enough on that side. It could possibly go a little bit more. So we'll go ahead and we'll just tap it one more time. Yeah, it's good. It's good. Okay, that's it. New seal's in. Simple as that. A little bit. There we go. Yeah. So it sits flat. I'm not sure what was holding it up there. Something was in the way. But you definitely want to make sure that there's clearance. Okay, we're going to clean the points here now. First thing you got to do is pop this bar off. Now you don't have to pull the whole stator and everything out to clean the points. It makes your life a little easier, I like to think, to have everything out. Pull this cap off. Now it's got a little seal on it there. It's hard to tell, but it's a little paper seal or gasket material, whatever it is. So inside here you've got, I can't really see what you're seeing here very well from this angle, so I don't know if I like this that much, but so you got here is your breaker points, and basically they open, can you see that? They open and close as the shaft is turning. It's got like a lobe on it, or it's oval shaped, and it pushes down on this lever and opens and closes the points. There's a little felt piece in here that's quite dirty. Take that out. Clean that. You can use soap and water. You can use degreaser. Use brake clean. These points do look quite dirty. A good way of doing it is just, you can take this nut off, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take the whole points right out. Then that way you can have a real good look at them. That piece is coming out. Back this nut off. Put that there. Careful with these wires. Put that washer right there. Take this wire off. Come on. So now you get all the wires off here. That's your kill wire. These other wires are, one of them must be the ground, I'm assuming. One of them goes to the coil, the other one goes to the condenser. That's the condenser right there on this one. Now, this should pop out once we take this screw out. This is the adjusting screw. It's not really cooperating. Use some pliers to pop this thing out. There we go. Put that over here. And then that should pop right out. Should. You won't do this without bending anything. Maybe if I just tap the end of that a little bit, it'll there we go. Okay. There we go. Get stuff. There we go. There we go. So once you get the points out, you can have a look at them and see what's going on. Now I don't really see anything wrong with them right now. You can look at them under microscope. Or what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take them up and clean them up on my brass wheel. Okay, so just took it up and cleaned the points. You're probably not going to be able to see much, but the breaker point surfaces have been cleaned. They didn't look that bad, actually, so that's concerning me a little bit. Use a little bit of brake clean on them. I'm also going to, once I put everything all back together, run some paper between the points just to make sure they're clean, especially after gapping them. If you use feeler gauges to gap it, then there could be some grease on the feeler gauges. Can't have any grease or oil on the contact points or else it'll affect them. So clean out the box. I think even this thing, if I remember correctly, the idea shows on here, you probably can't read it, but it tells you what the gap of the point is supposed to be set is 15 thousandths. I believe the thickness of this is actually 15 thousandths. So you can stick that in the points, I believe is the idea, this spot right there. I've never done that because I just use feeler points, but I remember hearing that or reading that somewhere at some point. Use some degreaser on this little felt. So this is so that there's a little bit of oil that goes on the crankshaft when it's turning in here. You don't want a lot because remember we said we don't want you don't want oil and grease between the points, so it's just enough to keep the friction down. Try and get all that water soaked up out of there. And then I did the same thing. There's a little felt seal that goes behind the points assembly between the oil seal, the crankcase, and then the breaker point there. That's pretty good. Now, what I want to do is put the points assembly back in the box. And it's just a matter of lining up this plastic piece and the little bottom of the points should slide back into this little pilot hole that's there. Not lined up. There we go. Push it in. You see that there? That post goes down into there. And we will shove this back in. We'll make sure you're all the way down. Now, I don't know if you can see that, but this, the top breaker point assembly wasn't all the way down, so the breaker points wouldn't have been lining up. So you look for stuff like that. Make sure you're all pushed back in, and we are. The next critical component here is this screw. And this is what's going to help us set our breaker points gap when we get it mounted back on the saw. So basically there's a little lever, a little slot here where you can get your screwdriver in here, and you can move this. You can position this. Can you see that? It's not a great angle here, but anyway, there's a little thing here that you can position. It's hard for me to do it right now because it's not on the saw. So I'm just gonna lightly put that screw back in there. Just kind of work it down so that it doesn't fall out. And then the next thing we want to do is remember how all this stuff was on there. This one was on first, right? That one went to the bottom. This little thing was on there. And then that wire went on next. Right? And then that went on to there. The nut went on the top. I think that's how it went on anyway. I certainly hope so. Tighten all this stuff. Again, you don't really have to take them all off. You can do all this when it's on the saw, but it's a lot easier to get access to all this stuff when it is off the saw. You can get your hands down in there and kind of do what you want to do. Really have a good look at things when it's off the saw. get some more of this grime out of here. And then this little guy, where did that go again? That was up in there, I think. That's where it was. It's up in there. I think that's where it went. Now again, these things here, just a couple drops of oil on it. 1, 2, maybe 3. 3 just for good measures. And then try and shove that back in there where it's supposed to go. I think that's where it's supposed to go. Okay. Let's make some room. We'll get the saw back over here and mount the points bracket back on. Yeah, I'm not going to change out that wire. It looks fine. I don't see any cracks in it. That would be just a pain and agony that I don't need to put myself through, so I'm going to skip that. Typically I would not do this, but I'm just going to try and make my life a little simpler today. Okay, and this goes down. Where does that go? Put it on here first, maybe, yeah. So basically that has to go, I think, like that. To line up like that. It goes like that. Well, it has to go to underside like this. That's the only way it can go. Just gotta try and figure out the right way that it goes. That felt goes back in around here. You can always tell because there's a little notch here that it goes in around the condenser. And then we're going to fish these wires back through the little hole in the case. That's critical. If we forgot to do that, well, we'd be upset because the next steps would be very difficult. That, oops, has to kind of come up, I believe, so that I can actually be able to get it up over. Yeah, okay, like that. I'm just gonna put it where it's supposed to be just for now, just to keep it out of the way. And then we'll try and work this down where it's supposed to go. Another thing that's critical is you want to make sure you got these wires routed properly in out of the way, so we're not vibrating on anything. That felt fell off. Get back on there. That also kind of helps keep the wires insulated and where they need to be. So I just realized that now. So that's kind of cool. We're having this problem again. There we go. If it doesn't go in straight, then it's getting kind of caught up on things. And next, we had 3 screws holding this assembly on. And the short one. It's not really lined up right. Short one and then 2 long ones for this part of the stator. And now I don't want to tighten this down. I wanted to see what the guys were talking about this stator. There is a little bit of play here, not a lot, but I'll heed the warning, and I will move it clockwise and hold it there, and then tighten down these screws. I'm not going to play with fire. The guy said turn it tight. I'm going to turn it tight. Clearly he had some issues. Even when you look up on Acres site, it talks about turning the stator clockwise fully. So there's got to be something to it. Now, what we want to do next, to set the timing gap, we want the engine at top dead center. Use my hand here, I think, just to do it at this point. And I'm just gonna look in through the exhaust port just to see when I'm at top dead center. Okay, there we are. Engine's at top dead center. Next step is to try and find my feeler gauges. Find the 15 thous, 15 thousandths of an inch. Have it marked, a little notch out of it. And then there's a little screw down in here. You gotta loosen this off. And then we move. Can you see that? The points. You can make really small adjustments with your screwdriver down in this slot. And you want them to be at top dead center, 15 thousandths. What do we got there? A little too much. Close them up. It's a bit of a tedious process. And you want it to just kind of grab the points. That's a little too loose. Like a small little bit off isn't going to make a big difference, but you can make the saw hard to start if you have them too close together. It'll ignite the fuel mixture really easily, and it'll pull the spark plug, or not the spark plug, but the pull start right out of your hand. It can be very unpleasant, especially on a saw that's about 100 cc's. That would not feel nice. So I try and get these as close as possible. 15 thousandth. It's just making contact. And I always mess around with these for too long. Yeah, that's good. Tighten down the set screw. Check it one more time. We good. Now turn this. Make sure that the points actually close. Once you move past the top dead center position, they are closed. The next step would be, oh yeah, I don't have my paper. Hold on a second. So you can just take little strips of paper, fold them in half, and you just, on this side of the points, you just open them up, and then you slip this paper down in, like so. I think this piece of paper is too thick. And you just pull them through. There's a little bit of dirt on there. You do that, I don't know, I guess until they're clean, 5 or 6 times. It's easier if you don't make this piece of paper as wide as I did. So I'm just going to go ahead and trim a little off. It's already awkward enough. I don't feel like making it worse than it has to be. Fold the paper over the other way. Get the clean side again. You can check it. Paper down in. Let it close. Pull the paper through. Check it. It's clean. Looks good to me. Now, if you had left all this on, you didn't take it off like I did, you do the same thing to clean them. There's different opinions on this of what you should use to clean them. I use 600 grit paper, same thing, cut little strips, and I, let the points close, drag it through, just like I did the paper, about 5 or 10 times, and then clean them with paper, and that works fine. Some people tell you shouldn't do that. Maybe they're right. I've never had any problems with it, though, to be honest with you. You just don't want to really damage the surfaces of the breaker points. That's my understanding on it anyway. All right. Okay, just put the key back in, and I can tell there is some play. There's something that's going on with this keyway. It either wasn't sitting in right or something has happened. I really, really hope that it's not going to be a major issue here. Make sure that you know what? I didn't clean up this side of the... Hold up. Okay, so just cleaning up the bore of this flywheel where it goes in onto the shaft. Yeah, this key, there's no movement in it now, but it doesn't look quite right. So either this thing, I don't know, wasn't in the exact proper location at one time whenever this thing was pulled. Hopefully this is going to slide on. I really hope it's going to slide on properly. Of course I got the darn magnets. Yeah, you know what? What's going to make your life a lot easier is if you don't have the magnets lined up with the coil when you go to put this on. So I'm going to change the position of the engine here. Yeah, like that. Well, at least I hope I am. With the nut. There we go. Now, line up the flywheel key with, there's a little keyway on the flywheel. That's good. That's tight. That's perfect. We don't want any movement. Washer on. Nut on. And I'm just going to tighten this down enough that I can test the spark. You see on this flywheel, it says, oh yeah, it is Phelon. You see the F, which I was assuming stood for Phelon, but Phelon is pH, so kind of puts a hole in that theory. All right, next step I want to do is I want to check for spark. I'm going to clean up this little plastic bracket though first before you want to slap it back on. And it goes, how does that go again? like this, right? Yeah. And that's going to go up there like that when the grommet's on it. I don't really care if the grommet's on it yet, but I will want the grommet on it very soon. Put that screw back in there. I'm putting this all on. I've got faith here that I've done a good job. Hopefully that is the case. If not, then I'm going to be taking it all back off, and I won't be happy about that. There we go, tighten that down. I don't want to tighten it too much because I'll strip it out. Next thing is this little grommet. Has to go on the spark plug wire. If I forgot to put that on, I would not be happy later. Next step is the boot. Put the boot in. All right, so I did smush it a little bit, but hopefully not too much. And then this guy's got to go back on there. Ow, son of a. You want to watch out for that. These things are sharp. Mother effer. Why did you have to do that to me? Try and pull this back into there. Just try and give this a clean cut, but then I'm going to have a shorter spark plug wire than I want. But not much we can do about that at this point. It'll still fit. I hope. I'm trying my damnedest not to get stabbed this time because that hurt. Did not feel nice. And just work, go on, do what you're supposed to do. All right. Okay, so that was a pain in the butt, but I finally got it back in. Poke my gun. Turn some lights off. Yeah. We got spark. That's great. That makes me happy. So it was just a points cleaning issue. So it appears. So now we can put the rest of this stuff all back on. So anyway, that's a points cleaning, and that's me poking my finger. Okay, so get the little shroud and everything all back on here. Everything's lined up. Put a rope in the top of the piston here to stop the engine from turning, so I can actually crank down this nut. And you don't want to go crazy with that because it's, but you want it tight. That's it. A couple little extra reefs on it there. And pull out the rope. And that's it for spark. So we do have spark. That's great. So we got everything all lined up here again. Wires, the kill wire is reconnected. Spark plug wire is fished back up in there, and the grommet's back in place. So, yeah. We have fire. Sometimes you can have spark, but still not run. Hopefully that's not going to be the case here. Really hope that's not the case, because then things get more complicated. It's a timing issue, or it's a condenser issue, or but I think we're going to be okay this time on this. One more, you know, step towards putting some fuel in this thing and hearing it run. Get the starter side all serviced. The next step is going to be, sorry, I had a horrible bronchial cold here. I've had it for like 2 weeks now. Lucky, well, I'll be lucky if it doesn't turn into a pneumonia. All right, so, ooh, looks like somebody might have put some thread inserts in here. That might be why there's, this is where that that muffler cover fits. That almost looks like thread inserts down in there. Problem with magnesium threads is that if you put too much pressure on them, you'll spin them right out and you'll wreck them. And then you got to put a Healy coil or something like that in there. It looks like there's a Healy coil maybe in that side, but not in that side. Ugh. Yuck. Hope that's not the case. All right, so next step is new starter rope. So that's the next step. And then we're done with this side. New oil seal, points cleaned, new spark plug, and then a new starter rope. We'll clean up the recoil on it.